What I'm about to reveal is going to completely change how you think about high blood pressure. And when I get to the real cause, the one thing that almost every doctor overlooks, you're going to understand why 48 million Americans are on blood pressure medications that aren't addressing the actual problem. I'm Dr. Sandra Whitmore, and I need to tell you something that the pharmaceutical industry doesn't want you to know. That medication you're taking every single morning, there's a significant chance it's treating a symptom while the root cause continues destroying your body from the inside. And here's what keeps me up at night. Right now, somewhere, a patient is being told their blood pressure is genetic, that they'll need medication for life, that there's nothing they can do about it. Meanwhile, their body is screaming the real answer, but no one's listening. And simultaneously, another patient who thinks they're doing everything right, eating salads, taking their pills, checking their numbers, is missing the hidden factor that's sabotaging every effort they make. I've been a cardiologist for 23 years, and I've watched both scenarios play out thousands of times. But here's what almost nobody talks about. Blood pressure isn't the disease. It's the symptom. And when you treat symptoms without addressing causes, you end up on more medications, with more side effects, while your cardiovascular system continues deteriorating. By the end of this video, you'll understand what actually causes high blood pressure at the cellular level. But more importantly, you'll learn why the conventional approach of just lowering the number with medication is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. Effective temporarily, catastrophic long-term. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before I can show you the real cause, you need to understand something about your blood vessels that changes everything, something that explains why two people can eat the same diet, have the same weight, the same stress level, but one develops hypertension and the other doesn't. Stay with me, because what happens in the next 10 minutes is going to transform how you think about every aspect of your cardiovascular health. Let me tell you about Robert first, because his story is going to reveal something that most doctors never explain to their patients. Robert was 62, a high school principal, came to my office with blood pressure readings of 165/98. His previous doctor had put him on 2 medications. They brought his numbers down to 142/88. Better but not great. Robert felt exhausted all the time, had trouble concentrating, complained of muscle weakness. Classic side effects of blood pressure medications. But here's what Robert's doctor never investigated. Why did Robert develop high blood pressure in the first place? He wasn't significantly overweight, maybe 15 pounds over his ideal weight. He didn't eat excessive amounts of salt. He walked regularly. No family history of hypertension until his late 50s. So what changed? This is the question that reveals everything, and this is where conventional medicine fails almost every patient. Instead of asking why the blood pressure went up, doctors just prescribe medications to bring it down. It's like your car's check engine light coming on, and instead of looking under the hood to find the problem, you just put a piece of tape over the light so you don't have to see it. The warning is still there. The problem is still there. You've just masked it. So I started investigating Robert's lifestyle. Not just the obvious things like diet and exercise, but the hidden factors. And that's when I discovered something critical. 3 years earlier, Robert had changed jobs, moved from being a classroom teacher to a principal. More responsibility, more stress, more late nights, more administrative work. His sleep schedule shifted. He was going to bed at midnight instead of 10 p.m., waking up at 5:30 a.m. exhausted. 5.5 hours of sleep, night after night, for 3 years. And here's what Robert didn't know, what his previous doctor never explained. Sleep deprivation is one of the most powerful drivers of high blood pressure that exists, not just because you're tired, because of what happens in your body at the cellular level when you don't get adequate sleep. Let me explain the mechanism, and this is crucial because it's going to unlock the real cause. When you sleep, your blood pressure naturally drops, something we call nocturnal dipping. Your cardiovascular system gets a break. Your blood vessels relax. Your sympathetic nervous system calms down. This nightly recovery period is essential, but when you don't sleep enough, several catastrophic things happen simultaneously. First, your sympathetic nervous system stays activated. This is your fight or flight system. It keeps your heart rate elevated, keeps your blood vessels constricted, keeps your adrenal glands pumping out stress hormones. Second, your body produces more cortisol, the stress hormone that directly raises blood pressure by causing sodium retention and blood vessel constriction. Third, and this is where it gets really important, sleep deprivation triggers something called oxidative stress. Your cells start producing excessive amounts of free radicals, these highly reactive molecules that damage the delicate lining of your blood vessels. This damaged lining is called the endothelium. And here's what you need to understand. The endothelium is the key to everything. It's a single layer of cells that lines every blood vessel in your body, from your largest arteries to your tiniest capillaries. When healthy, it produces nitric oxide, a powerful molecule that keeps your blood vessels flexible and dilated. When damaged, it can't produce enough nitric oxide. Your vessels become stiff, they constrict. Blood pressure goes up. This is called endothelial dysfunction. And it's the real cause of high blood pressure in the vast majority of cases. Not salt, not stress, not genetics primarily. Endothelial dysfunction, the progressive damage and malfunction of the cells lining your blood vessels. Now, you're probably thinking, okay, so if endothelial dysfunction is the real cause, what causes the endothelial dysfunction? This is the critical question, and the answer is going to surprise you because there are 7 primary factors, and almost no one addresses all 7. Factor number 1 is chronic inflammation. Let me tell you about Maria, because her story perfectly illustrates this. Maria was 58. Came to me with blood pressure of 170/95, had been on 3 medications for 2 years. Her numbers were barely controlled. She felt terrible. Constant fatigue, joint pain, brain fog. I ran some tests that her previous doctor had never ordered. High-sensitivity C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation, was 8.2. Normal is below 1.0. Hers was 8 times higher than normal. Her homocysteine level was elevated. Her oxidized LDL cholesterol was sky-high. Every inflammatory marker I checked was abnormal. Maria's body was on fire with chronic inflammation. And here's what inflammation does. It directly damages the endothelium. Inflammatory molecules attack the lining of your blood vessels. They trigger oxidative stress. They interfere with nitric oxide production. Your vessels become stiff and constricted. Blood pressure rises. But here's the part that's going to shock you. Where was this inflammation coming from? We did more testing. Maria had severe insulin resistance. Her fasting insulin was 32. Normal is below 5. Her hemoglobin A1C was 5.9, pre-diabetic. She wasn't diabetic yet, but her body's ability to handle carbohydrates was completely broken. And insulin resistance creates massive inflammation. Here's the mechanism. When your cells become resistant to insulin, your pancreas produces more and more insulin trying to force glucose into the cells. This excess insulin directly damages blood vessels. It activates inflammatory pathways. It causes the kidneys to retain sodium. It activates the sympathetic nervous system. Every single one of these effects raises blood pressure. Maria wasn't told she had insulin resistance. Her previous doctor had checked her blood sugar, which was normal, and assumed everything was fine. But normal blood sugar doesn't mean normal insulin. You can have severely elevated insulin for years or even decades before your blood sugar becomes abnormal. And during all those years, that excess insulin is destroying your cardiovascular system. We put Maria on a program to reverse her insulin resistance, and I'm going to tell you exactly what that program was in a moment. But first, I need to show you the other 6 factors that cause endothelial dysfunction, because if you only address 1 or 2, you won't fix the problem. Factor number 2 is oxidative stress. This is an imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in your body. Free radicals are highly reactive molecules that damage cells, proteins, DNA, and especially the endothelium. Your body produces antioxidants to neutralize these free radicals. But when the balance shifts, when you have too many free radicals and not enough antioxidants, you get oxidative stress. And oxidative stress directly inactivates nitric oxide. Even if your endothelium is producing nitric oxide, the oxidative stress destroys it before it can work. Your blood vessels can't relax. Pressure goes up. What causes oxidative stress? Poor diet, especially processed foods high in sugar and refined carbohydrates, smoking, environmental toxins, chronic infections, and, inadequate intake of antioxidant-rich foods like vegetables, berries, and herbs. Factor number 3 is chronic stress and elevated cortisol. Let me tell you about James, 64, who came to me with blood pressure of 160/92 despite being on medication. James had just retired from a high-stress career in finance. You'd think retirement would lower his stress, but instead, his blood pressure got worse. Why? Because James had spent 30 years in chronic stress. His body had been producing elevated cortisol for decades. And cortisol does several things that raise blood pressure. It causes sodium retention. It increases blood vessel sensitivity to constricting hormones. It promotes visceral fat accumulation, the dangerous fat around your organs that produces inflammatory molecules. It interferes with nitric oxide production. Even though James had retired, his body was still stuck in that high cortisol state. His adrenal glands had been overstimulated for so long that they couldn't regulate properly anymore. We had to actively work to retrain his stress response system, and I'll tell you how we did that shortly. Factor number 4 is a sedentary lifestyle. Here's what most people don't understand. Exercise isn't just about burning calories or strengthening your heart muscle. One of the most important effects of exercise is that it stimulates nitric oxide production in your endothelium. When you exercise, blood flow increases. This creates something called shear stress on the walls of your blood vessels. That shear stress stimulates the endothelial cells to produce more nitric oxide. More nitric oxide means more flexible, more dilated blood vessels, lower blood pressure. But here's the critical part. If you're sedentary, you're not creating that shear stress. Your endothelium becomes sluggish. It produces less nitric oxide, and studies show that just 2 weeks of being sedentary can significantly impair endothelial function. 2 weeks. That's how quickly your blood vessels start deteriorating without regular movement. Factor number 5 is poor diet, but not in the way you've been told. Everyone focuses on salt. Reduce your sodium, they say. And yes, excessive sodium can raise blood pressure in salt-sensitive individuals, which is about 25% of people with hypertension. But for most people, salt isn't the primary problem. The real dietary issues are lack of potassium, lack of magnesium, lack of antioxidants, and excessive consumption of processed carbohydrates and sugars. Let me explain why each of these matters. Potassium helps your kidneys excrete sodium. If you're not getting enough potassium, your body retains sodium even if you're not eating that much salt. Magnesium is essential for blood vessel relaxation. It acts as a natural calcium channel blocker. Low magnesium causes blood vessels to constrict. Antioxidants, as I mentioned, protect your endothelium from oxidative damage. And processed carbohydrates, especially sugars, spike your blood glucose and insulin, promoting inflammation and insulin resistance. Most Americans get less than half the recommended intake of potassium and magnesium. Most get almost none of the antioxidant-rich foods their bodies need. And most consume massive amounts of processed carbohydrates. This combination is a perfect recipe for endothelial dysfunction and hypertension. Factor number 6 is sleep apnea. This is one of the most overlooked causes of resistant hypertension, the kind that doesn't respond to multiple medications. Sleep apnea is a condition where you stop breathing repeatedly during sleep. Your oxygen levels drop. Your body goes into panic mode. Stress hormones surge. Blood pressure spikes. This happens dozens or even hundreds of times per night. Over time, this creates permanent changes in your cardiovascular system. Your sympathetic nervous system becomes chronically overactive. Your blood vessels stay constricted. Blood pressure remains elevated even during the day. And here's what's tragic. Millions of people have undiagnosed sleep apnea. They snore. They wake up tired. They have high blood pressure that doesn't respond well to medication. But no one ever checks them for sleep apnea. If you snore, if your partner says you stop breathing at night, if you wake up with headaches or feeling unrefreshed, you need a sleep study. Treating sleep apnea can drop blood pressure by 10, 15, sometimes 20 points or more. Factor number 7 is kidney dysfunction. Your kidneys play a crucial role in blood pressure regulation. They control sodium and fluid balance. They produce hormones that affect blood vessel tone. When kidney function declines even slightly, blood pressure regulation becomes impaired. Many people have early kidney dysfunction without knowing it. Standard blood tests might show normal creatinine, but if you look at more sensitive markers like cystatin C or calculate the glomerular filtration rate accurately, you often find reduced kidney function, and this creates a vicious cycle. High blood pressure damages kidneys. Damaged kidneys cause higher blood pressure. The cycle accelerates until you're on multiple medications and heading toward kidney failure. Now, here's where this all comes together, and this is what I need you to understand. All 7 of these factors, chronic inflammation, oxidative stress, chronic stress and cortisol, sedentary lifestyle, poor diet, sleep apnea, and kidney dysfunction, they all converge on one final common pathway: endothelial dysfunction. The damaged, malfunctioning lining of your blood vessels that can't produce enough nitric oxide to keep your vessels flexible and dilated. This is the real cause of high blood pressure. Not salt, not stress, not bad luck. Endothelial dysfunction driven by these 7 factors. And here's what conventional medicine gets wrong. They give you medications that force your blood pressure down without addressing why it went up. ACE inhibitors block an enzyme. Calcium channel blockers prevent calcium from entering vessel muscle cells. Diuretics make you pee out sodium and water. Beta blockers slow your heart rate. All of these medications lower blood pressure, and sometimes they're necessary, sometimes they save lives. But they don't fix the endothelial dysfunction. They don't address the inflammation. They don't reverse the insulin resistance. They don't improve your oxidative stress. They mask the problem, and that's why people end up on more and more medications. The underlying dysfunction keeps getting worse. Now, before you think I'm saying you should stop your medications, I'm not. Do not stop any medication without talking to your doctor. What I'm saying is we need to address the root causes while using medications as a temporary support. Let me show you how we fixed Robert, Maria, James, and hundreds of other patients by addressing all 7 factors systematically. Robert, you remember, had sleep deprivation as his primary issue. We worked on sleep hygiene first. We set a non-negotiable bedtime of 10 p.m. We eliminated screens an hour before bed. We optimized his bedroom environment, completely dark, cool temperature, white noise machine. We had him practice deep breathing exercises before sleep to calm his sympathetic nervous system. Within 3 weeks, Robert was sleeping 7 to 8 hours per night. His blood pressure started dropping. After 3 months, we were able to reduce one of his medications. After 6 months, he was off both medications entirely. His blood pressure stabilized at 122/76 without any drugs, all from fixing his sleep. But Robert also needed to address some of the other factors. We improved his diet, we got him exercising more consistently. But sleep was the primary driver, and fixing it reversed his hypertension. Maria, with her severe insulin resistance and inflammation, needed a different approach. We put her on a whole food, low carbohydrate diet. Not just low carb, but emphasizing nutrient-dense whole foods. Lots of non-starchy vegetables, moderate amounts of healthy fats like olive oil and avocados, adequate protein from fish and poultry, elimination of all processed foods, sugars, and refined carbohydrates. We added targeted supplements, magnesium glycinate 400 milligrams daily, omega-3 fatty acids from fish oil, vitamin D to optimize her levels, and a high-quality multivitamin to cover any micronutrient gaps. We started a structured exercise program, 30 minutes of brisk walking 5 days per week, plus 2 days of resistance training with light weights. Within 6 weeks, Maria's fasting insulin dropped from 32 to 12. Still not perfect, but dramatically improved. Her inflammatory markers started normalizing. Her C-reactive protein went from 8.2 to 3.4. And her blood pressure, which had been 170/95 on 3 medications, dropped to 138/82 on the same medications. After 4 months, we eliminated 1 medication. After 6 months, we eliminated another. After 1 year, Maria's blood pressure was 125/78 on just 1 low-dose medication, and she felt better than she had in 15 years. Energy returned, joint pain disappeared, brain fog lifted. She'd reversed her insulin resistance and dramatically reduced her inflammation. The endothelial dysfunction was healing. James, with his chronic stress and elevated cortisol, needed stress management interventions. We started with daily meditation, just 10 minutes in the morning using a guided meditation app. We added deep breathing exercises, 4-7-8 breathing 3 times per day. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, exhale for 8 counts. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your rest and digest system, and counteracts the chronic fight or flight activation. We encouraged him to find meaningful activities in retirement, things that gave him purpose without the chronic pressure of his previous career. Volunteering, spending time with grandchildren, pursuing hobbies he'd neglected for decades. We also addressed his sleep because chronic stress disrupts sleep, which then perpetuates the stress cycle. And we added adaptogenic herbs, ashwagandha and rhodiola, which help regulate the stress response and lower cortisol. Over 6 months, James's blood pressure gradually normalized. He went from 160/92 on medication to 128/78 on the same medication. We tried reducing the medication, and his pressure stayed stable. After 1 year, he was medication-free with blood pressure consistently around 125/75. His cortisol levels, which we monitored through saliva testing, normalized. His body had finally shifted out of that chronic stress state. Now, I want to give you the complete protocol, the systematic approach to addressing all 7 factors and reversing endothelial dysfunction. This is what I do with every patient who comes to me with high blood pressure. And this is what you can start implementing today. First, address insulin resistance. This is foundational because insulin resistance drives so many of the other factors. Adopt a whole food, lower carbohydrate diet. I'm not talking about extreme keto, just reducing processed carbohydrates and emphasizing whole foods. Focus on non-starchy vegetables as the base of every meal. Broccoli, cauliflower, leafy greens, peppers, zucchini. These are high in fiber, potassium, and magnesium. Include moderate amounts of healthy fats. Olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds. These help with satiety and provide essential nutrients. Eat adequate protein, fish, especially fatty fish like salmon and sardines, poultry, eggs. Protein helps maintain muscle mass and improves metabolic health. Eliminate or strictly limit added sugars, refined carbohydrates, and processed foods. This means no sodas, no fruit juices, limited bread and pasta, no packaged snacks. Check your fasting insulin level. Ask your doctor to order this test. If it's above 5, you have insulin resistance that needs to be addressed. Check your hemoglobin A1C. If it's above 5.5, you're on the path toward diabetes, and you need to take aggressive action now. Second, combat oxidative stress through antioxidant-rich foods and targeted supplementation. Eat a rainbow of colorful vegetables and fruits. The pigments that give plants their colors are powerful antioxidants. Berries are especially important. Blueberries, strawberries, blackberries, loaded with antioxidants. Aim for at least 1 cup per day. Add herbs and spices liberally. Turmeric, ginger, garlic, cinnamon all have potent antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties. Consider supplementation with vitamin C, vitamin E, and selenium if your diet is lacking. But food sources are always preferred. Third, manage chronic stress and lower cortisol. Practice daily stress reduction techniques, meditation, deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation. Even 5 to 10 minutes daily makes a significant difference. Ensure you have adequate social support and meaningful connections. Chronic loneliness and social isolation raise cortisol and blood pressure. If you're dealing with significant anxiety or depression, seek professional help. These conditions directly impact your cardiovascular health. Consider adaptogenic herbs like ashwagandha, which has been shown in studies to lower cortisol and reduce stress. Fourth, move your body consistently. You don't need to become a marathon runner, but you do need to move regularly. Aim for at least 150 minutes per week of moderate intensity aerobic exercise, walking, swimming, cycling, whatever you enjoy and can sustain. Add resistance training at least 2 days per week. This doesn't mean heavy weightlifting. Bodyweight exercises, resistance bands, light dumbbells, all effective. The goal is to maintain muscle mass and stimulate metabolic health. Include flexibility and balance work, especially as you age. Yoga, Tai Chi, simple stretching, all beneficial. Remember, consistency beats intensity. It's better to walk 30 minutes 5 days a week than to do one intense workout and then nothing for 2 weeks. Fifth, optimize your sleep quantity and quality. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. This is non-negotiable for cardiovascular health. Maintain a consistent sleep schedule. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Create a sleep-friendly environment. Dark, cool, quiet, comfortable mattress and pillows. Eliminate screens at least 1 hour before bed. The blue light disrupts melatonin production. Avoid caffeine after 2 p.m. It has a half-life of about 6 hours, so afternoon coffee can still be in your system at bedtime. If you snore or have symptoms of sleep apnea, get evaluated. This could be the most important intervention you make. Sixth, optimize your diet for the nutrients that specifically support blood pressure regulation. Increase potassium intake. Aim for at least 4,700 milligrams per day from food. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, bananas, avocados, leafy greens, beans, all high in potassium. Increase magnesium intake. Many people are deficient. Food sources include dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, and dark chocolate. Consider supplementing with magnesium glycinate 300 to 400 milligrams daily. Reduce sodium, but don't obsess over it. Most dietary sodium comes from processed and restaurant foods. If you're eating whole foods prepared at home, your sodium intake will naturally be moderate. Increase omega-3 fatty acids. These reduce inflammation and improve endothelial function. Eat fatty fish at least twice per week or supplement with high-quality fish oil. Seventh, get tested for and treat sleep apnea if present. If you snore, wake up gasping, have morning headaches, or feel unrefreshed despite adequate sleep time, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. CPAP therapy, oral appliances, or in some cases weight loss and positional therapy can be life-changing. Treating sleep apnea often provides blood pressure reductions that no medication can match. Now, here's what happens when you address all 7 factors systematically. Your endothelial function begins to recover. Your blood vessels start producing more nitric oxide. They become more flexible, more responsive. Blood pressure naturally comes down. Inflammation decreases. Insulin sensitivity improves. Your entire cardiovascular system begins healing. This doesn't happen overnight. It takes weeks to months to see the full effects. But unlike medications that just mask symptoms, you're actually reversing the underlying dysfunction. You're fixing the root cause. And the benefits go far beyond blood pressure. You'll have more energy. Started with 1, then 2, then 3, finally 4 different medications. Her blood pressure was still 155/90. She had side effects from every medication: fatigue, dizziness, muscle cramps, cognitive issues. She felt like her life was slipping away. We sat down and went through everything I've just explained to you. We tested her comprehensively. Severe insulin resistance, check. High inflammation, check. Oxidative stress, check. Poor sleep quality, check. Sedentary lifestyle, check. Nutrient deficiencies, check. Undiagnosed sleep apnea, check. Helen had all 7 factors contributing to her hypertension. Her body was a perfect storm of endothelial dysfunction, and for 20 years, doctors had just given her more medications without addressing any of it. We started the comprehensive protocol: dietary changes to reverse insulin resistance, targeted supplementation for nutrient deficiencies, sleep apnea treatment with CPAP, structured exercise programs starting very gently. And that's why I'm making this video. Because I don't want you to lose 20 years. I don't want you on a treadmill of escalating medications while the real problem goes unaddressed. You now know what actually causes high blood pressure. Endothelial dysfunction driven by 7 primary factors. You know how to address each factor systematically. You have the complete protocol. Now it's up to you to implement it. Work with your doctor. Don't change or stop medications on your own. But bring this information to them. Ask them to test for insulin resistance, inflammation, nutrient deficiencies. Ask them to help you address the root causes while using medications as necessary for safety. If your doctor won't work with you on this, find one who will. Your health is too important to accept just treating symptoms. You deserve to address causes. Before I go, if what you've learned today has been valuable, I need you to do 2 things. First, subscribe to this channel.